Greetings, friends. I'm AK.
And I'm Laura.
And we are
the Chainsaw Girls. On today's episode, I am so excited that we are covering this movie. Hot take, it is one of my favorite movies in this entire franchise. It is none other than 2002's Jason X.
I am very excited that we're finally diving into the Friday the 13th franchise. Though I will say, this is the first time I'm not going to say, oh my gosh, I loved it. Because this happens to be one of my least favorite Friday the 13th movies. So we're actually on opposite ends here. But that doesn't mean I don't like the movie.
Okay.
So we have a lot to discuss.
I thought it was kind of funny because when I text you, I was like, we always discuss what movies we're going to cover next. And we both have like our favorites that we really want to cover, I guess, first, kind of, right? Anyway, I suggested my two favorites out of the franchise, Jason X and Jason Takes Manhattan.
And I was like, out of the two, I will say Jason X.
Yeah, I was glad you picked it because someone recently asked me what our podcast is all about. Mm-hmm. And I described it as a love letter to the genre.
Yeah.
Right? And so I'm excited to cover Jason X because I don't feel like it gets a lot of love. And it is one of my favorite movies out of all of them.
I mean, for a long time, it has been said to be one of the, not favorite of the franchise across the board. But more recently, it feels like it is getting a resurgence of more love.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things that's kind of become a cult classic.
Yeah.
I remember seeing it in theaters. I snuck out of school and went with one of my friends, and we went to this really cool theater in downtown Toronto that I don't even know what theater, I don't know the name of the theater, but it looked like a real, like they used to have put on shows and plays and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
So it was this big, beautiful theater on Yonge Street. And I snuck out to see Jason X. And man, I remember when I saw it in theaters, I was like, this is so ridiculous and fun and cool. I love this movie. And then I remember seeing like people just all over it. Yeah. And I was like, did we watch the same movie?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's all up for interpretation, right?
Absolutely. Should I read the IMDb?
Yes.
I'm sorry, did I just cut you off?
No, go ahead.
Okay, IMDb, here we go. Jason Voorhees is cryogenically frozen at the beginning of the 21st century and is discovered in the 25th century and taken to space. He gets thawed and begins stalking and killing the crew of the spaceship that's transporting him.
AKA Jason Goes to Space.
He sure does. Okay, this movie just cracks me up because, I mean, we've talked about Brian on the podcast before. He's my trainer, and almost every single session we're talking about horror movies, but specifically we talk about the history of Jason. Mm-hmm. And we talk about like his dad and how a movie about his dad would have been so cool and blah, blah, blah. And we were talking about Jason X and how it came to be. And jokingly, we were both like, there's this big meeting and everyone's like, where are we going to take the franchise? Blah, blah, blah. And then someone raises their hand and they're like, have you seen Star Wars? And that is how they came to Jason X. I don't think that's the actual story, but that's the way I envision it in my head. They're like, you know what was really successful? Star Trek.
Let's do it.
Let's throw him in space. He's never been there before. And I'm so glad they did.
It seemed like a thing that they would just do eventually in a franchise if the franchise has gone on for so long. Like, hey, what haven't we done? Let's go to space.
Why not? And honestly, there's no rules because you can make up anything.
Yeah.
Especially when it's in the future.
Yeah.
And this is very far in the future.
Yes. So the actor who plays Jason, Kane Hodder, love Kane Hodder.
Oh, he's the best.
He plays Jason in 4 of the movies, part 7 through X.
Yes, and he's the only actor that has played Jason that many times.
Yes.
Which is awesome.
And I mean, we could really go into Kane Hodder here, but he did an interview where he was saying how when he saw the script was going to space, he's at first like, what the hell? But then he's like, you know what? It doesn't really matter where the location is as long as the character stays consistent. And I was like, Kane Hodder, you are an honorary pro wrestler.
1,000,000% yes.
That's basically kayfabe is what he was describing in this interview where he was talking about how when Arsenio Hall invited him on the show in character, he was like, I don't talk in character. Pro wrestling kayfabe right there.
By the way, if you have not seen that interview, definitely look it up on YouTube.
Yeah.
Or you know what? I'll put it in the show notes.
Yeah. And that Arsenio was like, yeah, that's the point. I don't want you to talk. So it worked out. Kayfabe.
I love it. Don't break it, guys.
Yeah.
Don't.
But seriously, there's so many similarities between horror movies and pro wrestling, or just like Kane Hodder and his the way that he really wants to stick to the character and the little mannerisms of the characters throughout the movies. He is notoriously one of the more famous Jasons for sure.
Yeah, definitely. I think he takes it seriously, you know?
He has really created so many of the iconic movements, mannerisms, little things that you might not even pick up that we all associate with Jason. And even the thing like, he doesn't like to run as Jason. He doesn't think Jason should run. When he's walking, he doesn't move his arms. Just little things that you don't notice until someone does it a different way. And then you're like, wait, something's off.
No, totally. And I think he's gone to bat for the character as well.
Yes.
You know, which obviously screams volumes of how much he respects the character.
Yeah.
And it's true. When you embody a character, especially for a long time, like, and I know that you can relate to this, you are protective of that character, you know?
Yeah.
Like if, as the bunny, if someone told me all of a sudden I'm going to be wearing like, you know, something completely out of left field and I all of a sudden start dancing or something, you know, I would be like, wait, no. Like that's not who she is.
Yeah.
You know,
he seems like he really cares about the character and I respect it.
No, for sure. Me too. Okay. So we had an $11 to $14 million budget and it grossed $17.1 million in the box office.
Holy
I thought that was a pretty large budget, but I guess compared to today's standards, maybe not. But
at the time, it was the largest budget that Friday the 13th has ever had.
There's no way this didn't cost a lot of money. Like, they're on a spaceship.
Right.
Just the set alone had to have been expensive.
Yeah. Kane Hodder said this was the first time he ever made six figures for a movie.
Whoa, good
so
for him.
They definitely had a budget.
I love that. This movie was released in April of 2002. Now, the original release date, I believe, was 2001, but it wasn't. It wasn't nationwide, I don't believe, until 2002. So that's what I'm.
Yeah.
I put 2002, but I believe 2001 is when it was like actually released.
Yeah. I think it does say 2002 everywhere.
Yes, exactly. And during April of 2002, The Scorpion King with The Rock came out. Murder by Numbers, love that movie, and Spirited Away.
I don't know that one.
It's a really popular animated movie. I've never seen it, but people love it.
Okay.
It was directed by James Isaac, and it was written by Todd Farmer and Victor Miller. And it was also produced by Sean S. Cunningham and Noel Cunningham. And Sean S. Cunningham, who was the producer and director of the first Friday the 13th. I thought that was pretty cool because, you know, it stays true to form.
Yeah.
Right? It's obviously a franchise that matters to him. Yeah, so I thought that was kind of cool that he's involved in it. This had a couple of different working titles. One of them I think was like Jason 2000 or Friday the 13th 2000.
Oh my gosh.
Which I think is just so funny.
That's so Y2K.
Jason 2000.
Yeah.
I have so many like little tiny like notes on this. I guess we can cover as we go along.
Yeah.
But I just wanted to really quickly say that David Cronenberg has a cameo in this movie, and apparently he gave them or lent them a production crew from Toronto, because that's where this was filmed. It was filmed in Toronto, and there's a lot of Canadian actors in it. But he let them use this crew or whatever. In exchange, he wanted to be killed on screen by Jason.
I feel like that's an exchange I would ask for.
No, 100%. And honestly, if David Cronenberg was like, "Hey, I would like to be part of your movie," I'd be like, "Yep, sure,
Yeah.
you can do whatever the you want, David Cronenberg. You can do whatever you want." So anyway, I just wanted to add that because I thought it was cool.
I love that.
Yeah, very cool.
There's really so much. There is so much to touch on in this movie, and you're right. I think we will just kind of touch on it as we go.
Yeah, definitely. Do you want to just hop right in?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. Right from the opening credits, I just want to say I thought it was so... it's very CG, the opening credits, but I liked the concept of being inside of Jason's like body and blood and shit. I thought that was really cool.
And I feel like that type of thing being CG isn't unreasonable.
Acceptable.
You're not like, why aren't you really inside a body?
Yeah, exactly. And I thought that was really creative that we're kind of like getting inside the body of Jason.
Yeah.
You know?
For sure. So we're in like the late 2000s.
Let's go with that,
Somewhere in there, can't pinpoint it exactly, but somewhere in the late 2000s.
Somewhere between 08 and 010.
Yes.
Let's go with that.
They cannot kill Jason. They have not been able to successfully execute him.
Right.
So they have him maintained is what they're trying to do.
Yes, they're at Crystal Lake's research facility.
Yeah.
And we're in this big empty room, and Jason is like being suspended by a bunch of chains.
Yeah, he's like wrapped up in the chains and suspended from a ceiling or something.
Oh yeah, and these are like big heavy duty chains.
Yeah. And then a guard puts a cloth over his face. He like walks up to him. You see that one of Jason's eyes is moving.
Oh yeah, and he like looks over at that guard and like squints at him almost. Like,
Yeah.
It's almost like he's like, I see you. Come on, come closer. Like it's so,
Yeah.
I love the squint.
And so when pre-Uber Jason in this effect, one of Jason's eyes is like a droopy eye, basically. And Kane Hodder said it in an interview that I'll link in the show notes as well, that the makeup artist Stefan worked out a way to put that in the mask so that he didn't have to have that prosthetic added every single day.
Oh, that's amazing. Oh my God, he must have so appreciated that.
He did. He definitely sounded like he did in the interview, because he was saying how like in part 7, he was in makeup for 3.5 hours every single day.
Wow.
Which, to someone who has never done something like that, might sound like, okay, you're just sitting there getting makeup on. But like, no. I've only had light prosthetics on my face before, and I can't even imagine that heavy ass makeup, what that must feel like. You cannot be claustrophobic and do a role like that.
Oh no, I mean, even getting the casting of your head, we had to do that in makeup school, and it was
I heard that's terrifying.
not comfortable.
Yeah.
Especially if you're claustrophobic, not
For
comfortable.
sure.
Yeah.
But he was very grateful that that prosthetic didn't have to be added, not just to make his life easier, but also it streamlines the makeup process.
Yeah,
So it's just
yeah.
easier for everyone and the production crew and everything.
For sure.
So I thought that was really cool that he put that in the mask.
Yeah.
And so the guard sees him, his eyeball, his one good eyeball looking at him, and he's creeped out, rightfully so.
Yeah.
And he takes like his jacket or some cloth or something and goes to throw it over Jason's head.
That's right. Now we cut to a bunch of guys in suits, or one guy in a suit, it's David Cronenberg, and then a bunch of soldiers. And we're introduced to Rowan.
Yes.
And essentially, Rowan is stressing that they need to like, David Cronenberg's character, they want to transport Jason to another facility.
Yeah, they want to continue research on him.
Exactly. And Rowan is stressing to him, like, we should not be moving him. Like, he's very dangerous. Like, we should, really, she wants to get rid of him.
Yeah, they haven't prepped the like cryo chamber, whatever it is. She hasn't prepped it yet, is what she tells him.
Right. And so she's very concerned, and he's not at all. And one of even the guards or the soldiers are kind of like, you know, it's all right, we got this.
Yeah. She literally says he's not frozen yet. And Dr. Wimmer, which I think is Cronenberg, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Says, it's okay, I want him soft. Said no one ever. Excuse me.
So the suits go into where Jason is, this big ass room, and there's a blanket covering him, like the cloth or blanket, whatever. And he says, you know, get that thing off of him. They go to take it off of him. Lo and behold, it is not Jason Voorhees. It is the guard.
Like he Houdini'd out of that.
Oh,
I
yeah.
don't even know how he did it.
I don't even think it was holding him.
It must not have been, but because there were so many chains wrapped around him. I'm like, how did he get out?
I mean, he's been resurrected
Jason.
so many times. He is capable of some magical.
That's true.
Yeah. So he breaks out, and obviously he hacks the guards. He hacks everyone to death. I keep calling him Cronenberg, but what is his name?
Dr. Wimmer.
Dr. Wimmer is trying to haul ass out of there, and Jason spears him right through the gut.
Yeah.
Rowan, obviously, you know, she can hear what's going on. She goes to go into the room.
Starts shooting Jason.
I mean, she is like, I need to figure out what to do here. She's pretty badass in this movie.
She's like kicking a table into him. She's basically pushing him back with gunshots.
Yeah, it's so smart. She's luring him backwards.
It's not killing him, it's just pushing him.
It's just giving him little pushes. And this happens quite often in this movie, actually.
Yeah.
But she's pushing him backwards to the cryo chamber.
Yes. So she basically pushes Jason into the cryo chamber with gunfire.
Smart.
And gets him in there.
Yes.
Runs up, shuts the door, locks it, turns on the nitrogen.
Exactly.
I guess, right?
Yep.
And it's like, oh, he's in there. He's secured. All right, we're gonna freeze him.
It is never that easy.
Is it ever? It's also the beginning of the movie, so of course not. He takes his machete and he impales her through the door.
I mean, that is that's number one, a very sharp machete.
I'm like, what is that made out of?
And number two, that is just strength.
Yes.
That is like superhuman Jason strength.
Yes.
For sure.
Not only does it stab her, but it also creates a security breach. And the nitrogen starts leaking out of the room or out of the cryo chamber, which now the entire room goes into lockdown. And Rowan is hurt, but she's not down. And she sees this room getting locked and she's like, no, no. And as she's falling down and losing energy, you see that she's starting to freeze because all that nitrogen is leaking into the room.
That's right. And now she is frozen.
Yeah, she's frozen.
Jason also is frozen.
Yes. Now we cut to a crew coming into that room in the future, which we don't know how far yet.
We don't know yet. And can I also say, like, when they're coming down the stairs, they look like aliens. Like, with their masks.
Suits.
Yeah, and their suits.
Yeah.
Like, I remember when I even first saw this, I was like, ooh, is this an alien movie? Like, what's happening here? But they all come, like, down in their little suits and stuff, and they discover the room.
Right.
And they see this figure behind in the cryo chamber. They see it. They're like, what is that? And then one of the crew members discovers Rowan's body.
Yeah.
And it's funny because they basically state during this whole thing that she's still alive and there's a chance that they can save her.
Yes. We're introduced to a lot of characters here.
Yes.
So it took us a second to figure out like who is who and what all their names are.
Yes.
But basically, this is a crew of students with their professor.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly right. We've got a couple of people here.
Yeah.
I can name off some of them.
KM is very important.
KM is very important. She comes into play in a little bit.
She's like a part robot.
She's a droid.
Okay, there we go.
She's a droid, yeah. And you know, something that I is very prevalent throughout this film is how heavily influenced they are by the Alien franchise.
Oh, yeah.
So her being a droid, I thought was very fitting. This guy, we had a really hard time pronouncing his name, but I'm going to say Suron? Surion?
I feel like it's Sunaron.
Sunaron? Tsunaron. This is KM's kind of boyfriend, okay? But also...
Is it her creator too? Does he like program her?
He like programs her and stuff, but they definitely have some kind of relationship.
Yeah.
We're introduced to Azrael, who is kind of the goofball. He's a kid. And actually in this scene, when they haul open the cryo chamber, Jason is actually frozen solid with the machete up in his hand.
Yeah.
And Azrael's trying to kind of like get him out of the chamber, trying to like, and Jason comes flying forward, frozen, not alive, and the machete cuts off Azrael's arm.
Yeah, he like tips over the frozen Jason basically because he keeps messing around when they tell him to stop.
Yeah, like he's like a typical young kid. And but what's interesting about it is his arm gets chopped off. Nobody's worried about it, and he's injected with something, and they're kind of like, just relax.
Yeah, by KM. She's like, here you go, you'll be fine in a minute. He's like, I'm missing my arm.
Yes, exactly. You're gonna be fine. And then we have Janessa.
Yes.
Who asks about the hockey mask.
Yes, what does she call it? I think you have it in your notes.
I did write it in my notes.
I didn't write it in mine, but it's funny because she's like, what is this thing on his face? It's like a carbon.
Yeah, she calls it some kind of 20th century carbon filtration unit.
And then someone's like, it's a hockey mask.
Yeah.
And she's like, what's a hockey mask?
It's
and
so
that's
funny.
when we're like, oh, we're in the future.
Yeah, like we are very far into the future.
So it's funny because in this movie, they state that hockey will be outlawed in 2024.
Yes.
So we have a few more months.
How sad.
Enjoy hockey while it lasts, everyone.
Oh, I like hockey too. I'd prefer if it didn't go anywhere.
Oh my gosh. So I wrote down, even frozen, Jason is people up when he chops off Azrael's arm.
I know, it is so funny that even in a frozen state, Jason's killing people.
Yeah.
But they decide they need to get back to the ship because they want to take Rowan and hopefully get her some help and resuscitate her?
Resuscitate her, yeah. And also examine Jason.
Absolutely, yes. So we're introduced to like the ship.
So many characters.
I mean, we have soldiers on board.
Yeah. Which we'll kind of mention them as their scenes come up because it is a lot.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure. We're also introduced to the professor on the ship who is the worst.
Yep. Slimeball for sure.
Yep, for sure.
And they start analyzing Jason in this room. And also they have Rowan on this table. They're starting to figure out how to reanimate her, basically.
Yeah, they have this really neat machine with that deploys what they call ants, which is like this liquid metal, basically, that covers the body and repairs your body if you're injured or sick or hurt or whatever. This does come into play several times in the movie, but this particular scene I thought was kind of cool.
Yeah. And so when they have Jason on the table, they're kind of analyzing what he's made out of, things like that. And one of the characters says, how does he function with a brain that small?
I die every single time they say that, because it is, I have always wondered the size of his brain and how smart he is. Yeah, absolutely. I'm
It's so specific.
it is, but it's like, what is he thinking about?
Yeah.
Besides like killing people.
Yeah, I don't think he does think of much, to be honest.
Can you imagine Jason sitting down in front of like a big pizza? Like, can you imagine if someone was like really nice to him and they were like, Jason, hold on a second. I know you want to kill all these people, but have you tried stuffed crust?
Oh my gosh, stuffed crust is so good.
I miss it. That's one thing that I actually do miss.
There's no vegan version?
I mean, I'd probably have to make it, but who wants to do
I
that?
probably have to make it.
But no, for real, it's just like life's not that bad.
Just eat a piece of pizza. You know what? No one ever offered him that, and that could have changed the entire franchise.
I think if someone would have been nice to him, none of this would have happened.
If his mother would have been nice to him.
No, his mother was good to him.
Oh, sorry. So then we see Kinsa and Stoney, who are like kind of like a couple or something. I mean, they're gonna be. Stoney says something like, he's huge or something. And then Kinsa says, I bet he's hung like a mammoth.
I mean,
Why? Why?
well, it's obvious that these are the two, like, they're there to die characters.
Yeah, why would you say that though in front of like your boyfriend or love interest? Even if you are talking about a cryogenically frozen creature, why would you say that?
No, it's totally true. And the fact that they're like all over each other, like making out next to him, which is like Jason's worst nightmare. I thought that whole scene was just ridiculous.
And Adrian's over it too, who is the person who's mainly examining Jason. And she's like, you guys can leave.
Yeah.
And they're like, really? Thanks. Bye.
Yeah. They're like, see you later. Okay.
Yeah. Which I don't blame her.
No.
She's like, go, just get a room, basically.
Yeah. She's like, you're being annoying. And she basically gives Jason a lobotomy.
Yeah.
She like sticks some like tongs into his eyeball and pulls out his brain, right?
I thought she was pulling out his dead eye.
Oh,
But it could be.
that was his brain.
It could be though. I don't know. Also, when you said tongs, why was I picturing like giant salad tongs? Like. Also, whenever you pick up a pair of tongs, do you have to click them?
You have to. Always. Okay,
Yeah,
maybe
I thought it was his dead eye. I don't know why.
I thought it was his brain.
It could be either.
Okay.
Someone confirm, please.
Somebody tell us, is that the size of his brain? Because the only reason I thought that is because they say, how can he function with a brain that small?
Yeah, that's true.
Because that is like peanut size.
Yeah, it very well could be. And then she puts it in the liquid nitrogen.
Yes.
Which also comes into play.
Very soon. Rowan has come back to life.
Yes.
She has been reanimated by the ants.
Yes.
Right? And she's starting to find out like what year it is.
Yeah, and they tell her it is 2455.
Whoa. And basically she's been in a cryogenic state for over 400 years.
Yep.
Over 400 years. Could you imagine like coming to terms with that? Your whole family's gone.
Honestly, it's one of my irrational fears.
Really?
Yeah.
I would love to be put into a cryogenic state.
I think I realized it was watching movies like this or other movies or shows where that happens.
Wow.
Even like Futurama. I just start to think about that and it freaks me out a little bit.
I would never want to go to space.
No.
Ever. I have absolutely no. I mean, we've talked about this before. I would never sign up to go into outer space.
No, especially if it just looks like a spaceship set. It's not taking me to another planet or something. That just looks so miserable to me.
But I would love to be in a movie on a set like that.
Oh yeah, set is different.
I mean, how cool would it be to like pretend to be in space?
That's as far into space I want to go.
I don't think we know enough to be going out there.
No.
It scares me.
Yeah.
So we also find out at some point around here that Earth has been destroyed. It can no longer be inhabited.
Yep.
Is that the word?
I think so.
Okay.
Inhabited, yeah.
Yeah, inhabited. But there is Earth 2. So, in case you guys are wondering, in the year 2455, Earth is gone, but don't worry. There's another Earth, and they came up with a really creative name for it, Earth 2. They're also on a transport ship on their way to Solaris, which is like a research center, a research ship.
Yeah.
Kind of. It's a big ass ship.
Yeah.
But it's almost like a city, and it's a research city. Why are you laughing?
I'm laughing because this is the type of space jargon that makes my eyes start to glaze over when I'm trying to watch a movie about space. Because if you did watch our intro episode or listen to our intro episode, you might remember us both saying that we're not huge fans of most space movies.
No, most space movies don't do it for me.
It's the lingo, I think, that makes me start to be like,
And the lingo and the names.
Yes.
And we need to connect the power grid line to the spacecraft's butthole, like whatever. I know it's squat. But I will say one thing I do love about Jason X, even though it is in space, how heavy-handed they are with alien references. That makes me go, okay, actually, my two favorite movies collide.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And actually, one of the characters is, I believe his name is Waylander.
Yeah.
Is a homage to a character in Alien.
Oh, okay.
I just think it's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Any hoogly boos.
So Professor Lowe is contacting someone, maybe like his superior.
Okay. Yes. I have a question for you regarding this scene.
Okay.
I couldn't tell if he was in bed sleeping or if he is bedridden, because he says something like he can't move.
He did say that. I assumed he was being woken up, but I don't know from what space thing.
Oh, maybe he was like in a deep slumber?
Like in a, yeah. Like he was, yeah, I imagine. Like some type of medically induced coma, and he's like, wake up, I don't care. He did say he couldn't move. I do remember that.
Yeah, so I was kind of confused. I was like, I wonder if he's like just a head or something.
Or like a torso. You can kind of see his shoulders. Either way, he's being disturbed and he's annoyed.
He's very annoyed, and he's not impressed with the professor's discoveries.
What does he say? He's like, what did you find now? DVDs? He's like, they're not valuable, or something along those lines.
Yeah, and then he says something like, it was, reanimating somebody was great at, some point, but doesn't really matter anymore.
Like it's old news.
It's old news. People get reanimated all the time.
Because he's basically saying that, well, the professor is saying, hey, we reanimated someone that's over 400 years old. And he's like, okay, that's not really valuable. And then I forget the other person's name. I didn't write that down. But he says the other specimen says Voorhees. That's not Jason Voorhees, is it? And the Professor Lowe is, of course, like, yeah, it is. Why? And so he finds out that Jason might be very valuable to the right buyer.
That's exactly right.
Because he's a mass murderer who couldn't die, blah, blah, blah.
Yep.
And of course, he's not going to share any of that profit with his students.
No, he says something to the effect of like, they'll just be excited to be like doing this research.
Yeah, he's like, the educational experience will be enough.
Yeah, he's just an asshole.
And even that other guy is like, you son of a bitch. No, not really. It's a throwback to Trick or Treat if you watched that episode. But yeah, he's very clearly a D-bag, which we see even more of very soon. We're not there quite yet, so I'll wait. But we cut back to Adrian, who is continuing her research on Jason. She's starting to cut around his mask.
Yeah, it's really gruesome.
It's very
and
slimy.
Gross. Yeah, real slimy. When she eventually cuts it off, she says, "Oh, poor baby."
Yeah, she looks at his face. We see his face for a second.
It is like she feels bad for him.
Yeah.
She's like, "Damn."
She was like, I know why you wore this thing.
Yeah, I get what you're hiding now.
Like, he's getting roasted.
Also, her name, Adrian, is a homage to the very first Friday the 13th. Alice's real name is Adrian.
Oh, nice.
Isn't that cool?
Yeah.
I love that.
I liked her. I liked her character, but she doesn't last very long.
No, she sure doesn't.
But we actually, we do cut back to the professor here, and we do see why else he's a slime ball.
Oh, yeah.
Janessa comes into the room, and
she is like half a dominatrix here.
Yeah, she has like a bottle of champagne, and what I think are forceps, maybe.
I thought they were tongs as well.
They also look like more tongs, just different tongs. There's a variety of tongs in this movie.
There sure are, yeah.
But she's like, I need to talk to you about my midterm. And she's like doing kinky to to the professor. She's twisting his nipple with the tongs.
Oh, yeah.
Right? With the
and
forceps.
he loves it. He wants it like...
And he's wearing like
I love like negligee. What is
negligee?
it called? Negligee.
Yeah. He's wearing like her lingerie or something.
Yeah.
And at the end, he's like, you know, whatever. He's like, harder, harder. And then he's like, you pass.
It's so comical and over
Yeah.
the top, which is one of the reasons I love this movie.
Yeah.
Like, all of these scenes are so, like, campy.
Yeah.
You know,
Very,
and
very.
silly and over the top.
Yeah. Which also in the next scene kind of goes into that too. We have, I'm going to call him Sunaron. I believe that's how you pronounce his name.
Mm-hmm.
It took me twice watching this movie to even figure out what his name was. I could not find it for the life of me.
Yeah, I had to put the captions on
yeah.
for his name. Yeah.
So he's in the room with KM, the droid, and he's staring at her boobs. And you're like, okay, what's going on here? Like, he created his own little sex bot.
Yeah, and she's kind of excited about it. Like, she's like, what do you think? Do you like them? It's actually
Yeah.
like, it's touching.
Yeah, but at first I'm like, oh, what creepy going on? And then her nipples fall off.
Poor
And
thing.
You're like, what? And then you figure out that it's actually her asking for them. She's asking her, or she's asking him to give her nipples because she's like, well, Janessa has them.
Yeah, like she wants to be a person. You know,
Yeah.
she wants to be a human.
So I thought that was sweet once you realize what's going on.
Yeah, and then he's like, you know, I like you just the way you are. Like, you don't
Yeah.
need these. It's just very sweet.
It was sweet.
Yeah.
And so we cut to a scene of Kinza and Stoney getting freaky.
Okay, I have to say, I loved this scene so much because everybody has like talked about the lore of Jason, right? Like, everyone has talked about what he likes, what he doesn't like, what triggers him, what, you know what I mean? What brings him back, all of these things, right? We've all kind of talked about that.
Yes.
I love how much they lean into like these characters, Stoney and Kinza are like getting freaky, and as they are, like, Jason starts coming to life.
That is such a good point. As I was writing my notes, I didn't even connect that, but something I wrote after that makes so much more sense what you just said.
Yeah, like, it's almost like he's sensing premarital sex.
Yes,
and he's like coming to life. He's
Yeah.
like, not on my watch.
Yeah. And so, because I wrote down, he seems to straight up Michael Myers style sit right up as Kinza like climaxes. And I was like, so I don't know what that was about, but that makes so much sense.
Yeah, it wakes him up.
Literally,
right?
he's like, somebody's having premarital sex.
No,
If he could
for
talk.
real. He goes, not today.
Yeah.
Where's that machete? I need to put an end to this.
Oh my gosh.
So great. Yeah. And so he does. And Adrian is looking at like samples and stuff under a microscope, and Jason slowly starts coming back to life, and she hears things. She kind of turns around, you know, nothing's happening. And then she turns around and he's not there.
This is the one scene that I remembered from this movie before I rewatched it. And I really think it might be one of my favorite kills in the whole franchise.
I think it's one of my favorite kills in any horror movie.
I could see that.
It's so creative.
Yeah.
I just love it. Please explain the scene.
So Jason is now awake. He grabs Adrian. He drags her over to this tub, and he slams her head into the liquid nitrogen that we saw her dip whatever that was in earlier. We see a shot from the inside of this tub. We see her face get dunked into the nitrogen and then freeze from underneath the water, which was such a cool effect by itself.
Yeah.
Then he pulls her frozen head out of the nitrogen. Very reminiscent also of like Blood Diner, the Hush Puppy head.
Yes.
Except now, Jason smashes her head on the counter and it just explodes.
It like breaks. It shatters like ice.
Oh my gosh.
It is so well done.
The first time you see it, you're like, what the you know?
I remember everyone in the theater. I mean, there weren't many people because it was like the middle of the day, but I remember everyone went, whoa, like just like, oh my God. It was so cool. I watched an interview with the actress who plays Adrian, and she was saying that they cast 10 dummies. Like they did a mold of her face, whatever. She said the dummies looked so real and they were just off camera. And it's like she's doing this scene and she can just see like, you know, it almost like her, but as dummies. Like, how creepy is that?
That has to be really surreal.
Yeah.
You're seeing your own face getting smashed.
I mean, it's pretty cool.
That's weird.
Yeah. But great. I think one of the best kills, you're right, of the franchise
So
for sure.
good.
Yep. So Jason is alive.
Yes, and I was also very shocked when watching it back that it happened so early in the movie.
Yes.
I thought it was going to
absolutely.
happen later.
Yeah.
They start off hot.
No, they do. I feel like they jump right to it. I have to also say, like, and I don't mean this as an insult to the movie because you know I love it. It does have a Sci-Fi Channel feel.
Oh yeah, it's the spaceship setting.
I think you're right, and it also has a Canadian feel, which
Okay.
I don't mind because I love Canadian television.
That I don't know. Like, I don't know how to describe what a Canadian feel would be.
I know it's hard to put your finger on what exactly it is, but if you watch a lot of Canadian movies or TV shows, there is just some sort of charm to them.
Okay.
That is very specifically Canadian.
Okay.
I don't know. Anyway,
Okay.
but I just thought I'd point that out.
Yeah.
So Adrian is done. So
Yes, Adrian's done. Mm-hmm. And now we see Rowan talking to the professor.
yes.
And she's explaining to him that they first executed Jason in 2008.
Yes.
So that means in the beginning of the movie, it must have been 2008 or a little later than that.
yes.
And they tried everything, but they could not kill him. She's like, we tried firing squad. We tried, like, literally everything.
She's like, we hung him.
Yeah.
I did write it all down, but yeah, they tried a million different things and they could not kill Jason.
Yeah.
And she is trying her hardest to like express this to him, you know,
Yeah.
like she's talking about the Crystal Lake Research Center,
Yeah.
like, you know, all the shit that went down. And then they finally decided after, you know, electrocuting him and all that, they went, well, we're just going to freeze him.
We have to contain him.
Yeah, contain him.
It's the only thing that we can do.
Yep.
And it's funny because she says to the professor, in the end, it always comes back to money.
Always. And it's true.
Talking about when in the beginning that other, I keep wanting to call him Cronenberg now.
Dr. Whalen.
Doctor. It was a doctor. Yes.
I don't think it's Whalen.
It was like Wimmer or something. But the doctor wanted to
Dr. Cronenberg. Let's go with that.
keep him alive to further research on him, but it was a danger to society.
Yep.
And that's when she's like, in the end, it always comes back to money. And she's saying that to the greediest person on this ship.
Absolutely. And honestly, it goes hand in hand with the way the world works, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Yeah. Moving along.
Moving along. So the professor does eventually tell Rowan, oh, Jason is dead. Trust me, Jason is dead.
Yeah, he's really trying to tell her, like, no, you know, but it's like, buddy, you don't even know.
Yeah, he's like, no, our reports show that he's dead. And she's like, that's impossible. And he's insisting because obviously he wants to now take Jason and try to sell him.
Absolutely.
And she's like, okay, show me.
Yeah.
He's like, okay.
Yeah.
And of course, Jason is gone.
Jason is gone. Adrian is dead. I thought it was kind of cute that Janessa lent Rowan her clothes.
Oh, yeah.
She even says, she's like, oh, yeah, my clothes look good on you or something.
Yeah.
I thought that was like kind of cute.
Yeah.
And as this is all going on, Jason is walking around the ship looking for victims.
Yes. And Stoney is leaving the room after him
Yes.
and Kenza were getting it on. Mm-hmm. And actually, I think he opens the door and Jason is standing there and stabs him through the torso.
Yes, he does. And the actress who plays Kinza gets sprayed with the blood. And her reaction to that was real because the blood got in her eyes and was burning her eyes.
Oh my gosh.
I know,
so her
right?
scream was legit.
Legit.
Oh.
Yeah.
Now I want to go back and
Yeah.
listen to it.
I know. Once I read that, I rewatched the scene and I was like, oh, crazy.
That's why it sounded so convincing.
Yes.
So in the next scene,
and sorry,
It's okay.
no, totally fine. I mean, you did mention this, but Rowan knows that Jason is on the ship, and and that you're right. That when the professor is trying to tell her, like, no, he's dead, she is so stressed.
Yes.
that Jason is aboard the ship.
because she knows, okay, well, we're pretty much all dead.
Absolutely. And then when they go in and you said like he's not there, they discover Adrian's body is hitting the fan.
Yes. So the next scene, we see Azrael. Is that his name? How do you pronounce it? Azrael and Dallas, which is another like soldier. And they're shooting at these crazy monsters. So at first you're like, what is going on? Like, are these other monsters that live in this universe? And we find out that they're playing like an alien simulation game.
Yes, exactly.
And so Jason comes in at one point and he cuts one of the monster's arms. And Azriel and Dallas aren't really concerned. They're like, oh, okay, well, let's, pause the game.
Yeah, like they're kind of going like, well, why is that happening? Like there's sort of like they think that maybe like something went wrong with the game.
Yeah, they think it's a glitch.
Yeah, it's a glitch, and it's funny because the way that they're reacting to it is they're like, oh man, like what's happening?
It's so casual.
Yeah.
And at first you're like, what is going on? Until you realize they're playing like a virtual reality game.
Yeah.
And Jason comes up and like chops Azriel like almost in half, and he's just like, ugh, this isn't supposed to happen or something.
Yeah,
and you're like,
their
what?
reaction is so comical.
Yeah. And then he also chops Dallas's head off, and as it like plops on the ground, Dallas is still talking. He's like, okay, game over.
Yep.
And you realize that Jason is just stabbing these VR characters and he's in a simulation.
Yep.
And so then they realize Jason is actually there.
Yep.
And they're like, oh, this is not part of the game. Mm-hmm. So they start fighting him. Jason ends up giving Azriel like a backbreaker, like a shoot backbreaker.
I wrote that in my notes too. I'm like, damn, he gave him a real backbreaker and broke his back.
And killed him.
Oh yeah, he's donezo for sure.
And then he takes Dallas's head and smashes it into the wall. I don't know what it is about someone's head getting smashed that just sits with me in a different way. Maybe because it's so barbaric and brutal.
Yes.
And just feels more realistic than like a backbreaker, for example.
Yeah, no, totally. I actually read too that the stunt double broke his nose on that scene.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, crazy.
Damn.
No, I'm with you. I think anytime your face is getting like smashed into a wall, into the ground, it makes me feel so uncomfortable and uneasy. Yeah, great kills though.
Yeah.
So how many kills do we got now? 3.
Oh, I'm already gonna lose track, but yeah, that sounds right.
And I guess like the beginning people.
Oh, 4 because Stoney, Adrian, and then the 2 at
and then the 2, and then Cronenberg and all his goons.
So many soldiers we can't count. We already lost count.
We got a lot. All right.
So Jason now finds the room where an engineer is like kind of like chilling. Crutch.
Yeah, Crutch. And I love this character. And also the professor and Sergeant, I keep calling him Sergeant Brodsky, but I think it's Brodsky.
It's Brodsky.
Brodsky.
Yeah.
First of all, I know, right? I love that actor.
Me too.
He is incredible. And also, I love his character in this movie.
Yeah.
He's great.
He does a great job.
And he's also like, doesn't listen to the professor. Like, he's just like, yeah, okay. Because I think the professor is trying to convince him, like, we got to keep him alive. And he goes, he's offering him all this money. And then he
goes
offers
up to
him
like $500,000.
Yeah. And then he goes, and then Sergeant goes like, yeah, all right, I'll take your deal. Walks into the other room, immediately goes to his soldiers. And he's just like, no, we're going to kill this guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's not entertaining
he's going to protect his crew.
1,000,000%. Yes. I love him.
Me too. Mm-hmm. And so Jason is about to kill Crutch, and Sergeant Brodsky yells for him, like, get down.
And you can like see Jason in the reflection. I thought that was a really cool shot.
And then three of them open fire on Jason.
Yes.
Of course. We already know. Jason just gets like pushed back by bullets.
He's just getting pushed. Yeah.
Yeah. So he snaps one of their necks. He gets into a fight with another, who I believe was Condor. This is where I was really trying to keep up with whose name was who.
Yeah, we got a lot of names.
Yeah. So Condor, he knocks him off a ledge, and he gets impaled on a giant screw, which I don't even know what that would have been for.
I called it a giant screw as well.
It definitely was, because first of all, he starts spinning.
Yeah.
Which is almost comical.
I know.
But then some of the girls find Condor and they report back to Sergeant Brodsky, and Brodsky's like, what's his condition? And she's like,
he's screwed.
And that's when I was like, confirmed, it was a screw.
I did the exact same thing. I'm like, yeah, it's a giant screw. Yep.
Those lines.
So the search continues for Jason.
Yes.
Right? The professor is so useless.
Yeah, because all he wants is to keep Jason alive, which is just going to get everyone killed.
Yeah, and his reaction to things in this movie, he's just so over the top and just ridiculous, and he does not care about the well-being of anyone on that ship. No.
So the next soldier that we see is Gecko. It's one of the girls. And she backs up right into Jason, who's hiding in a shadow. And we just see the knife come up to her neck. I also noticed a lot of these kills actually happen off screen.
Yes.
Which I wonder if that had to do with the rating.
It probably. Yeah.
Because we see the knife go up to her neck. They kind of cut out to someone else. And then we see Gecko walk out toward, Kicker is who it was.
Yes. And she's almost like she's walking a little bit weird.
She's stumbling. And then she starts gurgling. You see that her throat is slit and she collapses. And Kicker's like, what the hell? So I just found it interesting. A lot of times you would see the setup for the kill. You wouldn't see the actual kill. And then maybe you see the aftermath.
Yeah, I would imagine it probably has something to do with maybe keeping the rating.
Maybe.
Yeah.
So Jason steps into frame here. And Kicker, one of the soldiers, starts blasting him.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
And ends up getting Jason onto some kind of what I would say is sort of like a meat hook type thing where it's suspending him.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. And he reports on his walkie-talkie or whatever. I'm sure it's more high-tech than that in 2455.
Right.
Like, I got him.
Yeah.
Which already you're like, oh, why would you say that?
I know. You're like, you just ruined it for yourself, pal.
You just killed yourself. And he's like, he's not going anywhere. That's like saying, what's the worst that could happen?
I'll be right back.
Exactly. And of course, Jason gets down rather easily.
Very easily, yeah.
And chops him in half.
I mean, if Jason can survive cryogenic stasis and every other way that he's died,
yeah.
you know?
And we see Kicker crawling away, but it's just his torso. Like, he's severed at the waist.
It's insane.
I'm like, oh. Another kill that we didn't see happen.
Right.
We just see it set up, and then we see him. I mean, seeing him crawl away half a body was pretty gnarly, though.
So creepy.
Yeah.
Ugh, gosh. Oh, gosh.
And then, I don't know if I missed this, but it looks like we then see that, because now Brodsky is, like, calling to people on the whatever, I'm just going to say walkie-talkies. Like, how's everyone doing? Is everyone okay?
You guys all right?
And we see that Briggs, a blonde girl, she's already dead.
Yeah.
Was that also off screen, I'm assuming?
I think it was off screen.
Because I don't remember seeing her get killed. It was happening fast at this point.
Yeah, it was almost like Jason was stalking them all. Even though they were looking for him, he was definitely stalking them one by one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so Sergeant Brodsky, being the sergeant that he is, he's
I
like,
love
all right,
him.
I'm about to go whoop this guy's ass. 'Cause he's
rocks.
killing all my people.
I love him so much.
He goes in there, and unfortunately, he gets impaled.
He does. And can I read off the lines?
Please.
Because I love him. I think he's just awesome. He says he gets impaled through like the torso, and he says it's gonna take more than a poke to these ribs to put down this old dog. And then Jason like turns the machete and he goes, yeah, that ought to do it.
Yeah. I thought he got impaled twice by something else, but it might have been a twist. 'Cause I couldn't tell what it was.
Yeah, I couldn't quite tell either. I thought Jason just kind of like
Just
torqued
it. Could have been, yeah.
But I just thought that's I think this is part of the reason why I love this movie is it's like my sense of humor.
Yes. Okay. During this scene, I was thinking the same thing. I'm like, I feel like that's what I would do if I just knew I was dead.
Yeah, like,
I would
yeah.
just say something smart ass on
Like
the way out.
that's about right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that was really funny. I loved it.
So he gets stabbed, okay? Mm-hmm. Now, they're trying to land the ship.
Right, and the professor is first of all like blaming Sergeant Brodsky.
Brodsky.
Brodsky. I want to call him Brodsky so bad.
He is a broski.
He really is. He's great. But yeah, the professor's like blaming him.
Yeah, like I told him not to go in there. They were unprepared. Like he's trying to save this whole ship, sir.
Oh, he sucks. He sucks so bad. And then the engineer comes to the room and everyone for a second thinks that it's Jason, but it's actually the engineer.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that was like a fun little jump scare.
We see that Jason has now gotten into the room where the pilot is basically.
Yes, Lou.
Lou, yeah.
Lou cracks me up. He goes, he's sitting, he's talking to like another ship, essentially. I think he's talking to Solaris, actually. And he's like kind of, you know, he knows what's going on, essentially. And he says, he says, I'm going to get blamed for this. Let's bring a psycho on board. And he's saying this to himself, right?
Yeah.
Like he's going like, yeah, great. Let's bring a psycho on board. Like he's bitching about the kids.
Yeah.
And then he says to Solaris, he goes, we got a problem. He either says goat or a goat.
Okay.
He goes, we got a problem. A real goat. I don't know. I just thought his dialogue was hilarious.
Yeah. He had a lot of good one-liners.
He did, yeah.
And he unfortunately also gets killed off-screen blood spatter.
Yes, Jason takes out Lou, and we have to talk about this for like 2 seconds, please.
Yeah.
So Lou was told to haul ass to Solaris. So he's driving. He's flying the ship very quickly.
Yes.
So it's moving fast towards Solaris, and he's meant to slow down and land the ship. So they're radioing to him like, yo, you got to slow down. You're coming in really fast.
Right.
The ship collides with Solaris, and the entire planet slash station
Yeah.
explodes.
The entire thing.
It's gone.
There's no more dock, basically.
It's gone. The whole Solaris. This is why I don't with space.
Because now what do you do?
What are you gonna do? Okay, the first time I saw this movie, I thought that was like where everyone lived. Like I thought that was like the Earth.
Yeah. But it was like a floating dock, basically, right?
It is. It's a research center. It's like the Solaris is the research center. So when the whole thing blows up and just disappears, I was like, holy shit, man. This ship did some damage.
Yeah. Like this ship was as big as the Earth too. Like
That's
you think
what,
it's like, yeah.
I go, whoa.
Yeah. So lots of explosions here. Obviously.
A lot of explosions, a lot of damage to the ship. Yes. And now Jason is trying to get to where the crew is.
Right.
He's trying to get through. Mm-hmm. It's wild.
And Jason does eventually get to the professor.
Oh, this scene is fantastic. So satisfying.
All I wrote down here was that the professor is like, because he's kind of like reasoning with Jason or trying to.
Yes.
And he turns to the crew and he's like, it's okay, guys. He just wanted his machete.
That's it. Oh, you can have it. You can take it.
And then.
Oh, Jason.
The good old with the machete.
Yeah, he takes him out, essentially. And it's beautiful. And we all cheer and we're happy because, you know what?
He was the worst.
And it's great, too, because when Jason picks up the machete, again, I just feel like it's like they're talking to the audience. Like, don't worry, guys. He's going to get his machete. Yeah. It's his weapon of choice. Right. It'll be there. You know what I mean? I don't know. I just thought it was so fun.
There's a scene here where they show KM and Sunaron. They're together. They're alone. Mm-hmm. And they start making out.
Yeah. Because they're a couple.
It is sweet. It's weird, but it's sweet.
I think it's sweet. I like her, and I
do like her a lot.
Yeah, she was one of my favorites. In fact, the actress that plays her is in the show From, which if you have not seen, guys, if you liked Lost, you will love From. From is.
It sounds very familiar. I don't know if you recommended it to me before.
I might have, because I won't stop talking about it.
Maybe.
It's so good. It's on the MGM channel or Prime. You can get it on Amazon Prime. It's amazing. But she's in it. And I was so excited when I saw her. I was like, oh my God, it's KM.
She looked very familiar to me.
Yeah, she's great. She was on Andromeda, and so was another one of the actors.
A lot of these actors were in similar movies.
Yeah, which makes sense because it's in Toronto, and a lot of the Canadians, right, are probably on similar projects.
So we cut to Rowan, Janessa, and Kinza, who are now trying to escape. Mm-hmm. And Rowan is starting to boss up. She's starting to show her bad bitch here.
Oh, she is like, she ain't fucking around, man.
I was like, she is me. Because she turns to Kinza, who's freaking out.
Oh, yeah, Kinza can't hold it together.
She really can't.
Yeah.
And Rowan says to Kinza, if you make one more sound, I will snap your neck myself. I was like, yeah. You got to do what you got to do for survival.
No, 1,000,000% yes. And also, there's like a scene around here where I believe it's Rowan asks if they can just be beamed out. And one of the characters goes, beamed out? Like
what do you think this is?
I just thought that was so funny because I would say the same thing.
Because you're like, okay, this is like Star Trek. Do you have this technology? I don't know.
Or in the future, just beam me out, Scotty.
Yeah. Okay. So we cut back here to, I guess, the cockpit. And we see that the pilot has been dismembered and his body parts are like strewn about. And Crutch walks in and he's like, damn, he's taking it all in like, oh my gosh. And then he's like, but I've seen worse. I was like, sir, are you okay?
No, dude, I said the same thing. I was like, I want to know what happens. And then later on, he alludes to some big war with Microsoft. That people were beating each other with their own limbs.
Yeah.
I want a movie all about that. Tell me about your history, man.
Tell me the backstory.
Okay, also, when Rowan is getting all like badass, one of them says, do you know how to use a gun? And she goes, yeah, it's just like riding a bike. And then Janessa goes, what's a bike?
I didn't even catch that.
I love it. It's
That's
so ridiculous.
Good.
What's a bike? I mean, I guess she's in the year 2455. I guess they ain't using bikes.
And she's the same one that asked about the hockey mask, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. She's got some great lines.
I do like that.
Yeah, I liked her. I thought she was pretty funny.
Now here, the girls find Sergeant Brodsky alive.
Yes.
So he did not die from being impaled.
No, and Rowan is like, I'm gonna save him.
Yeah, and they use that same technology, the ants.
Yeah, she does. She goes and gets him. She's like, no, I'm not leaving him to die.
Yeah, they regenerate him.
Yep.
He's back. We love it. We're happy to see him back. Mm-hmm. And Crutch is now in the cockpit fixing stuff. He's trying to figure out what to do to fix it so he can fly the plane.
Absolutely.
Or the ship. I wrote plane, but it's a spaceship.
Yeah, yes. The engineer is, he's trying to get his shit together so that they can basically
Land.
get to Earth 2.
Yeah.
Or another ship.
Somewhere.
Yeah.
So Crutch, in his, trying to fix everything, he sits down, he leans back, and we see a head pop up like behind him.
Yeah.
And it's a severed head on the end of a machete. Of course, Jason's machete.
Like a skewer.
Yeah, it's like a jump scare.
Yeah.
And Jason grabs Crutch and he starts smashing his head into like the circuits or something. And he starts getting electrocuted.
I was sad. I
know.
actually liked Crutch.
Whose head was that? Was that the pilot or was it Professor Lowe? Because it kind of looked like the professor.
Yeah.
I couldn't tell.
I couldn't tell either.
But it was a head either way.
It was a dead head.
It was definitely dead, for sure. But we were sad. I was about to say Crush. Crutch gets electrocuted. It's sad.
It's sad.
It's sad. Now we see that Kinza has been locked in a room by herself.
No, well, she locks them
Yes.
out.
Yes, I wanted to beat the shit out of Kinza here.
She was brutal. So basically, she's in the transport ship. So there's a
Yes.
smaller ship,
Like a pod.
yeah, a pod attached to the ship. And so basically, they're all trying to get into this pod so they can get off of the ship. And Kinza is like hysterical, and she, as like they're running to get in, she runs in first, and Jason is pursuing them.
Yeah.
And rather than letting them all in, she shuts the door on them. So we've got Waylander, Rowan, and Janessa.
Janessa, yes. I was going to say it's a girl.
Yes, they're all pleading with Kinza to let them in. And Kinza's like crying and she's like, eh. And Kinza decides that she's going to fly this pod. And as she's like, she starts, getting in motion. So Janessa realizes that the fuel line is still attached to the pod.
Yes, and she's trying to tell Kinza this.
Yes, but Kinza's not listening. She doesn't want to hear it. She takes off. And what do you think happens? The pod explodes.
It basically, like, the fuel lines, because they're attached, drag the escape pod back into the ship and it just explodes.
It explodes and it ruins half the ship.
I wrote down, you dumb bitch. I was so mad.
No, I was livid.
Even when Rowan is pleading with her, like, please open the door because Jason is coming, and she's just like, ah. When people, I understand everyone reacts differently.
No, I'm with you. I know exactly what you're gonna say.
But when people are just like
hysterical like that,
hysterical and not,
like they're not thinking straight at all. I just want to slap them.
I've never had a cryogenically frozen mutant Jason chasing me on a spaceship with a machete, but you just want to like shake them, like, get it together. Like,
well, the thing is, in stressful situations, like losing your like that is not going to help anything.
No,
it's gonna it's like. I feel like obviously, yeah, we don't know what it's like to be in this situation, but I agree with you. I honestly, anytime somebody is like losing their mind like that, it just makes me like irrationally angry.
She definitely was. If there's fight, flight, and freeze, I would say that was like a freeze.
Yeah.
Where she's just hysterically crying and can't react, which I understand. You can't always control how you're going to react to a situation until you're in it.
Yeah.
But it's so frustrating to watch.
What do you think you are? Are you a fight or flight? Yeah, I already know.
What do you think?
Yeah, I already know. You're a
And
fight,
also,
man.
that's not to say that I wouldn't be flight or freeze in certain situations. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I definitely think naturally I'm a fighter.
Yeah, I agree with that for sure.
You think that's what you are too?
No, I think I would haul ass out of there. Absolutely.
But I don't think that
But not in that way. Not in the
I was gonna say
I would definitely not like sacrifice everybody, even though I did tell you about the white water
rafting. But I think in this situation you wouldn't just not let us in.
There's no way.
Yeah.
No, absolutely not. No matter how like freaked out I am.
Right. And also
know?
they were right behind her. It's like she really had no reason to do that. Jason wasn't even there yet.
I will say one time I got jumped and I ran. Like I did not try to fight. They maced me and I could not see and I just ran.
They maced you?
Oh yeah, I got maced. Yeah.
How old were you?
14.
What the
had to run into like a convenience store. Yeah, it was bad.
Okay, but
a stranger took me to the hospital.
That.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Do you know when you get maced, all of the fluids inside your eyes and nose just start pouring out of you?
I'm flabbergasted right now.
Yeah, dude, it was crazy. It was crazy.
Oh my gosh. I'm like speechless. I had something to say and now I'm like, I totally lost my train of thought. But what the hell? Well, because it's about that. I wanted to say something, but now my brain just like turned off. I'm like, what the hell?
Yeah, I got maced, and I will say, but right before it happened, I was filled with this like absolute like alarm bell going off in my brain of like, or that instinct. You know,
You knew something was gonna happen.
I knew something bad was happening, and I didn't know why I felt that way. I just knew that something bad was happening. And I mean, they maced me so quickly that I couldn't even react. I just had to run. And now anytime I even feel a tiny bit of that internal alarm, I listen.
You trust it.
Oh, I trust it. Yeah.
Yeah. I knew what I was gonna say. That I feel like that is a different scenario because you were outnumbered. So
yeah, it was me and my girlfriend. It was just me and my girlfriend.
And then multiple people. And that is a different scenario. I think if I was in a scenario where it was not smart to fight, I mean, still, you don't know how you would react in a situation. That means you might fight even when it's not the smartest.
Right.
But if I was outnumbered or like someone had a weapon and I didn't, I don't think I'm going to go fight them.
No, and I mean, I knew I couldn't see. Like I knew that whatever was going to happen next was going to be bad. Like I didn't know if I was just going to get robbed. I didn't know if they were going to beat the shit out of me. I didn't know, you know, I didn't grow up in a very nice neighborhood, so anything could have happened, honestly.
Did you know them? This is the last question I'll ask. Did you know who that was? The people?
I had an idea.
Okay.
But I can't confirm.
Okay.
You know.
Damn.
And there was I couldn't.
Oh my gosh.
I don't even know if I reported it, honestly.
Well, you were a teenager.
Yeah, I was a teenager. Yeah.
I'm shook right now.
Yeah,
I was
pretty
not
crazy.
expecting you to say that. No, don't apologize. I was just like, wait, what?
Yeah, that was pretty crazy. So yeah, I don't know how I would react, but I definitely don't want to get maced again. That's for sure.
No, that sounds horrible.
Yeah, pretty bad.
Well.
Anyways, getting back to Jason X.
So Kinza blows up. Right?
Yeah.
And now Rowan, Janessa, and Waylander are in a room with Jason.
They are backed against a wall, literally.
Yes. Sunaron shows up.
Oh, yeah.
He's like, hey, Slappy, which I don't know why he called him that.
No idea.
Hey, Slappy, got a little something for ya.
I love it. He's such a nerd.
I know.
But it's so endearing.
And he introduces an upgraded version of KM.
She looks fantastic.
Such a badass. She comes in like all black. He gave her an upgrade.
Like that is like wrestling gear, man.
Yes.
I was like, she looks like the Matrix, like
a little bit of China,
a little bit of Sable.
Yes.
With that like shiny
pleather.
She looks bomb. I was watching behind the scenes stuff, watching her film that fight scene.
Yeah.
And it's really cool to see the actress actually be like kicking and she she didn't do all her stunts, but I think she did some of them.
That's so cool.
Yeah, it was really neat.
And one of the best parts is, you know, she's introduced and it's like, oh, here she comes. She's upgraded. And Jason just whips his machete into her torso like a dart.
Oh my God. Right?
Immediately.
Like he just looks at her and he goes like, yeah, next. Boom.
And she falls and you're like,
we're like, well,
really?
There goes that.
And I was thinking like, damn, that's anticlimactic.
Yeah.
And so he goes up to her and even one of the girls is like, well, that didn't really work out. And he goes to grab his machete out of her torso.
Can you imagine being like Janessa or Waylander and thinking like, oh, okay, we're going to be fine.
We're saved.
And then you're going, no, why would I be?
Right.
You know?
And Cam was tricking him. She grabs him, like basically was luring him in.
Like she plays possum. It's great.
Yes, grabbed his arm and looks up and she's like, you know, looking all sassy.
Yeah.
And she starts shooting him. And when I say guns a-blazing.
Oh, she knows. She goes, I gotta shoot and shoot until this guy ain't moving.
She shoots him so much.
And she's like doing like flips. She's like flipping over him and like she kicks ass.
She really does.
Oh yeah.
Literally and figuratively.
Oh yeah.
And at one point, she shoots around the wall. Like, he's against the wall, and she shoots around it like it's steel or something.
So smart.
And so many holes. And so many holes. She's creating perforations. I know, so many holes. I don't know why I said that. She's creating perforation around him, okay? And she does the same thing to basically shoot his arm off.
Yes.
With all the bullets.
Yeah,
okay?
she shoots his arm off and his leg.
She kicks him through the wall because now all those holes created perforation. And he goes through the wall. Eventually, she blows his head off.
It's great. She blows his head right off.
Like, there's only a tiny section of the mask left. And you're like, oh, like,
yeah.
How is he coming back from this?
He's done so.
He has to be done, right?
And he lands on a piece of equipment. It's kind of broken down and like dilapidated at this point.
It looks broken.
But it is a piece of equipment. Let's leave it at that for now.
Yeah. She also throws his machete into his torso like a dart also.
Oh, she does, yeah.
For good measure.
We love that.
Because she's like, you ain't going to do that to me.
So we think, as far as we know, Jason is dead-zo.
Yes. And they also think they're in the clear.
Yes.
And so they're like, we're in the clear, but the ship is leaking something.
Yes. So the Sarge has been, I keep calling him Sarge, Sergeant Brodsky has been healed. Mm-hmm. He's good to go. But the ship is, yes, bleeding out, and they need to send out a distress signal. So they do. And someone does respond. Another ship responds.
Yes.
And they're like, okay, we're on our way. It's going to be 45 minutes. And then, I don't know, how do you say the guy's name?
Brodsky? Sunaron, I think.
Sunaron, he goes, well, we're going to need you faster than that. The ship's going to blow in like 30 minutes or less.
Yeah.
And at that point, Janessa is like pleading. She's like, no, look, we need help. You have to come and get us.
Yeah.
We'll figure this out. You can't, you know what I mean? And, one of them, I can't remember if it's KM. Somebody suggests blowing up sections of the ship to like get rid of them.
Yeah.
I'm assuming the parts of the ship that are no good. I couldn't really understand the technical aspect of this, but essentially they have a plan to like detonate half the ship.
Yes. Now, while they're doing this, we see that there's some type of like, when they're blowing things up and there's like short circuits and electricity being generated through this ship.
Very Frankenstein,
because it basically regenerates that table that Jason was lying on.
And the table that he's lying on happens to be where our ants reanimate people.
Yes. How convenient.
Oh boy.
But I also love that because I really was thinking when his head got blown off, like, okay, how do you come back from this? Even though we've seen him come back from so many things.
He's like Sister Gloria. His head pops up. He's like, JK.
No, this was a better explanation, in my opinion. He's on the table, spark of electricity. Now he's getting reanimated.
He is.
And of course, he gets reanimated as Uber Jason.
He looks like a tank.
Yeah. Oh, this is the mask that most people remember from this movie, which also surprised me that it happened when I was rewatching this late in the movie. Mm-hmm. He doesn't look like this for the majority of the movie.
I remember when I saw it in theaters being disappointed that he wasn't Uber Jason the whole time.
Yeah.
Because I think if I'm remembering correctly, the theatrical trailer shows Uber Jason.
Okay.
So I could be mistaken, but I'm almost positive when I went into it thinking that we were going to get a lot of Uber Jason.
I know even rewatching it, even after I had already seen it, I was like, oh yeah, he's not Uber Jason for the whole thing.
And his whole getup is incredible.
He looks so badass.
He looks so scary. He's like RoboCop meets Terminator.
Yeah.
Like it's
metal mask, red eyes.
Oh God.
Half body armor.
Kane Hodder, like, I mean, he is Jason.
Yeah.
And him and all that metal and must have been so cool.
Oh, yeah.
Don't you think? How much fun to look like RoboCop for a day.
Oh, my gosh.
Amazing. Love it.
So in this scene, we're introduced to Uber Jason. KM approaches him and he almost immediately punches her head clean off.
Yeah, I mean, like the bullets are just bouncing off of him because of all of his like metallic.
He has armor on now.
Yeah, his armor.
Yeah, straight up.
He's like a knight.
Yeah, he also knocks down Waylander, who gets trapped in the room with him as the others kind of escape and realize that Waylander didn't come with them.
And he's not going to make it.
No.
But Waylander has the detonator. And he essentially sacrifices himself to save the rest of the crew. So the ship starts exploding.
Yeah, he straight up is like, hey, asshole, and then detonates and blows himself up. And you're like,
Oh,
what
I liked Waylander.
horrible choice to have to make.
I know. I really liked him too. I liked his character a lot.
Me too. And it looks like that everyone is about to escape now because
It
they're
does.
getting picked up by the other ship.
Yes, and KM is still alive. Her head is still.
They're carrying her head around.
Yeah, they're carrying her head. Yeah,
Her body isn't there, but
listen, if I get decapitated, you better be carrying my head around.
I would.
Don't leave me in space.
I would definitely try to preserve it for sure.
Oh, this scene is so crazy.
Yes, please.
Okay, so this other ship shows up to save them. Okay, but as this is happening, Jason is like punching holes through the ship. What happens is it creates a vacuum.
Yeah.
And so the room that they're in, because this vacuum is like pulling everybody and everything towards the hole, they're scrambling to get out of there. And so Sergeant Brodsky is on the outside of the room and he's holding on to Rowan, and Rowan is reaching for Janessa.
Yes.
And Janessa is hanging onto the grates, but she's struggling and she's being pulled. And, just as their like fingers are touching, Janessa says, man, this is really going to suck.
Yeah.
And her whole body gets pulled through this tiny like hole in the side of the ship.
Like another grate, basically.
This was honestly like Aliens 4, like in Jason Land. Like it literally, like they're at the end of I want to say it's part 4. There's like a baby xenomorph that believes Ripley is the mother. And I mean, this scene, a lot of people don't like part 4. I like part 4, but the alien's like, mama, mama. It's so sad. And he gets like pulled through the same way.
Yeah.
Oh, it like always it made me cry the first time I saw it.
my gosh.
Even though it's a xenomorph, but I love xenos. Oh, it's just, and he's a really ugly looking alien. But anyways, that's what I think, that this scene is a homage to Alien 4 is where I'm getting at.
Did you cry when Janessa got sucked through the crate?
Absolutely not. No, I cheered. Oh, but I like her, but I thought I was like, yeah, it was a cool kill.
Can I just say that when they show the grate that she got sucked through, I feel like the effect looked like they hung pieces of like prosciutto on the grates. Just like thin meat.
Yeah, it was pretty gross. The visual, pretty gross.
Yes.
I put in my notes, Jason is still coming for them. How? I don't know. He's Jason.
Exactly. I mean, that is pretty much the explanation we always get.
Yeah.
I wrote down, I was confused because the other ship kept saying Grendel.
Grendel. I think it was the name of the ship.
It's their ship.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, Grendel's a ship.
So I thought that Sunaron's name was Grendel. I couldn't.
To be
I was like,
fair,
who is Grendel?
They're both interesting names. Like, he
Yes.
could have been named Grendel.
So I was like, I had to pull up Google at the same time I'm watching this movie, trying to figure out which character is which. And I'm like, who is Grendel? And I'm like, oh, it's the ship.
It's the ship.
Okay.
Yes. So the other ship shows up, but they don't have enough power supply to like get the doors open.
Yes. And so Sergeant Brodsky, being the sergeant,
Oh, he's the best.
he has to put on a suit and he has to go out into space and try to fix.
Volunteers.
Yeah.
And by the way, his spacesuit is all like red and he looks cool.
Yeah.
He's got to go to the outside and use one of the power lines and move it so that the other room gets the power supply.
He's fixing stuff.
Yeah,
That's what I wrote.
He's fixing space stuff.
He has to fix the controls.
And as this is happening, Jason is still coming.
Yeah.
This is probably my favorite scene in the whole movie because it's just so ridiculous. But KM is like wired up to like the ship's computer, and they come up with this idea to turn the room that Jason is walking towards them into the simulator
Yes, that we saw earlier.
I
love this scene.
It is okay. I have notes on this scene.
Please go ahead.
So apparently the casting director or the casting director, and I think the actual director, they didn't like the scene at all at first because they felt that this was just a way to like get more nudity into the movie.
Okay.
I don't believe the scene was written exactly like it is
at first
played out. Yes.
Oh, okay.
So they said, if we're going to do a scene like this, we are going to camp it up.
Yes. And camp it up, they did.
I mean, it is such a parody of the other films, but done in such a way that, again, feels more like a love letter to the other films. I loved it.
It absolutely is. It's interesting to know that because I feel like the way they did it is the reason I love it.
Yeah. It's so fun.
Yeah.
And Jason ends up, so we'll describe it. So he's back in Crystal Lake.
Yes.
And he's kind of looking around like, okay, I don't know how I got here, but I have no brain, so I'll go with it. And he's kind of walking around, and then we hear like giggles, and these two girls appear, and they immediately take their tops off. They're like campers. Yeah. And I quote, they say to him, "Hey, do you want a beer? You want to smoke some pot? Or we can have premarital sex. We love premarital sex."
I was dying.
They get into sleeping bags and they're looking up at Jason with like these big goofy smiles.
Yeah.
Jason grabs one of the sleeping bags and he starts just like smashing the shit out of it.
He starts smashing one camper in a sleeping bag into the other camper in a sleeping bag, which of course is a homage to Part 7, The New Blood.
Yes.
Which is one of Kane Hodder's signature Jason kills where he takes the camper in a sleeping bag and smashes him against a tree.
Yes. And apparently the original Part 7, when he's doing that, they had to shoot that over and over and over because the dummy that was in the sleeping bag was so heavy that Kane Hodder was struggling to like do that shot. And I guess he was so frustrated on the last take that they end up actually using it.
I love that.
Isn't that great? I thought that was so funny.
The most frustrated take. They're like, perfect. That's
like,
what we're looking for.
That's it. That's the one. I bet your arms and body are sore.
I love that
We got
scene
the shot
so much.
Yeah, it's the best. It's dude, it's so good. It's so well done. I love it. Yeah.
So Sergeant Brodsky, now in his red suit, comes face to face with Jason.
Yeah.
When the VR goes away.
Yeah.
And he just looks like Jason's size in this big red suit.
It's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He looks really cool.
Yeah, because at this point, I think the doors have opened up, correct?
Yeah.
The power supply has been restored. The doors are opened up and they run towards the ship.
Yes, because Rowan and Sunaron are about to escape.
But KM's head is still in the ship. And Rowan, being the badass that she is, runs back into the ship, grabs KM's head, and then sees the showdown between Sarge and Jason.
Yes.
Uber Jason.
And there's a big explosion.
Oh, yeah.
The pod is now, they're in the escape pod. Rowan, Sunaron, and Cam's head.
Yes, and doesn't Sergeant, she wants him to come into the ship, but he closes the door because he knows if we even try this, Uber Jason's gonna kill us all. Yeah.
So there's a big explosion after that as the pod is escaping.
Yeah.
And then Jason's body starts flying through space. Like the explosion sent him toward the pod.
Right towards
Rowan
them.
Literally looks at this and goes, "You've got to be kidding me."
Oh, it's so again. That's because we all were saying it.
Yes,
we're
like
going,
really still. He is relentless.
He's the Terminator.
Talk about persistence.
I love it, man.
But right before Jason reaches the pod, which almost looked unintentional, like the explosion just sent him that way. I don't know.
Yeah.
But right before he reaches the pod, Sergeant pounces him basically off screen. Boom.
Yeah.
Stops him in his tracks.
It's awesome. And it hangs on to him.
Yes. And then they show them he's clinging onto Jason's back. They're flying through space.
Like he's using Jason as a surfboard or something.
Literally. And they fly through space.
They're gliding together.
They are. It looks so funny.
Yeah.
And basically until they both disintegrate into nothing.
Yeah.
And they show back on presumably Earth 2.
Earth 2.
That there's a couple having a date by a lake, and they look up and they see what we know is Sergeant and Jason, and the guy's like, "Look, there's a shooting star. Make a wish."
Yeah.
And something flies into the lake, and they're like, "Oh, it's in the lake. Let's go check it out."
What could it be?
And we go underwater and we see that it is Jason's mask.
Sure is.
In the lake.
Oh my God. Well, we presume that's got to be Camp Crystal Lake, right?
I would presume it's
Earth
on
2.
Yeah, Earth 2 version, and that is how the movie ends.
And that's it.
X.
Jason X, baby. So how do you feel? Do you still
I don't dislike this movie.
Okay.
I do want to say I feel like we should rank all the Friday the 13th, maybe in a bonus type episode or social media or something.
Yeah, let's do it on socials. Yeah, I
let's
love
do
that. Mm-hmm.
Because I would love to talk about this, but I know this episode is already, getting long. But I will say
No, I think our camera battery's gonna die soon.
that too.
Sorry, guys.
Jason X, when I ranked this franchise back during quarantine in 2020, that was something I did on my Patreon.
Yeah.
And I know that Jason X was very low in my rankings compared to the others.
Yeah.
I don't dislike this movie, and it has one of my favorite kills in the whole franchise.
Yeah.
And there are so many things I love about it. I just am not partial to space, number one, which we already know.
We've talked about that. Neither one of us are huge fans. Yeah.
Yeah. And compared to the campy Jason that I have known to love, it just felt different to where the other ones I just feel more, I feel a more connection to the other ones.
Well, it makes sense because this is the first time outside of Jason Goes to Hell, which you also said you ranked pretty low.
Yeah.
Well, and you don't really love Manhattan either, do you? That was my favorite.
I don't remember what I ranked that one. I'll have to go back and look.
I thought it was creative that they put Jason in space.
It is.
I guess when they were developing this movie, Freddy versus Jason was also in development. And I mean, this movie, it has like a really interesting like backstory and like how it all came to be. I guess it's the reason it's set and how the time that it's set. It's like it's after Freddy versus Jason would have happened,
even though it was released before because of Freddy versus Jason's production time, right?
Right. And I guess it was kind of pitched in a way of like, let's get people hyped about the franchise before Freddy versus Jason comes out. I think that's how it got like greenlit.
Yes.
It was a hard sell as far as from everything I've read. It was a difficult sell. Obviously, it being in space. I think.
I would imagine.
Yeah. It
like,
was definitely.
Hear me out.
But a couple of fun things. Mythbusters actually tested out the liquid nitrogen kill, and apparently that wouldn't actually happen in real life. Which
I want to watch that episode because I'm curious. Like, how do you even recreate that?
No, exactly.
What a
for
human
sure.
head would do.
Yeah, I gotta watch it too. So remember earlier I was saying that there's definitely a lot of like influence from Alien.
Yeah.
So I looked into it a little further, and I guess like there are quite a few nods to Alien, including obviously Alien 4 getting like sucked out. Them being like on the ship, obviously, even the way that Jason is like stalking them is very similar to the xenomorphs.
Yeah.
In the original Alien, and also like Predator, right? Like that sort of hiding in the shadows kind of thing. But yeah, there are just like quite a few nods to Alien. And I think that's why I also really love the movie, because it does remind me so much of the franchise. And I love the Alien franchise.
And I will also say, doing these episodes on these movies gives me a new appreciation for them. So I already feel like I like Jason X more than I did in 2020.
I love that. No, it's cool because you're getting more of like a breakdown of like how it actually came to be and all of like the ins and outs of it. I don't know.
Even hearing Kane Hodder talk about, it doesn't matter the setting as long as the Jason character is consistent. And I'm like, yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, no, totally. Okay, so a couple of extra little things that I was just going to like throw out there. Apparently in early 1999, there was a script written titled Jason X Hell Freezes Over, where it was set in like a wintry Crystal Lake.
Oh.
So they had this idea of that it would actually be like winter at Crystal Lake, which I think is kind of like neat.
It's a new element to play with for sure. Like, imagine what they could do with tracks in the snow. Even things like that.
Yeah, and I guess they wanted it to have a lot of callbacks to the originals. And include the character of like Tommy Jarvis, and Ginny and Paul and all of these characters that were in the original franchises. I thought that was kind of cool.
Yeah.
Obviously that's not the direction that they went. They ended up doing full on Jason X in space. But I would love to see Crystal Lake in the winter.
That would be really cool.
Christmas Jason.
Put a Santa hat on him. Do it.
He would look great. I'm so glad you had fun watching this movie.
I did.
I love it. I will fight to the end to defend Jason X. I love it. I think it's fun. I love that it's Canadian. I love it's a Canadian cast. I love Kane Hodder. I just think it's so fun. And the only like, I guess, disappointment is I wish we got more Uber Jason.
Yeah, I could see that.
Also, I need to get an Uber Jason figure.
Yes, you do.
I need to.
I'm looking over at your figures right now.
I got a lot of Jasons.
He did look so badass.
I think I have equal amounts of Jasons and Puppet Master toys.
Wow.
Maybe more Puppet Master, actually.
I would imagine.
Yeah. Anywho.
So follow us on our social media. We have Instagram, we have TikTok, Facebook. What else do we have? I think that's it.
At Chainsaw Girls Pod. Yeah. We're also on YouTube. If you're watching this,
Yes.
you know. But if you're listening and you'd like to check it out, we have full episodes on YouTube. They go live at noon on Mondays.
And you get to see our cool memorabilia that we wear. Like right now, we're both wearing Jason stuff, of course, and have the table decked out in all of Laura's Jason. Well, not even all of Laura's Jason figures, but some of them.
Yeah, we love Friday the 13th. You know, we're fans. And then also you can email us. We love getting emails from you guys. You send us such great suggestions. It's chainsawgirlspod@gmail.com. And
leave us a 5-star review if you choose to. You know, no, we're not forcing you or anything, but if you want to, it'd be great for us. It helps us a lot.
Yeah.
On whatever platform you listen to.
It helps our channel grow for sure. We love you guys. And
okay, bye.